Okay, thank you so much. We are little ahead, not ahead, we are late. So we'll try and catch up that. Thank you all the speakers. And I would like to have maybe one question from each of the speakers. My first question is to Mr. Damit. How can we guarantee an investor who wants to invest on renewable energy? Is there a mechanism where he'll be guaranteed that the return on investment will be good?
Yes, actually, in renewable energy investments, there are two paths that can be taken. The first one is the feed-in tariff, which is there for investments less than 10 megawatts of renewable energy plants. So in that, return of investment, as a considerable return of investment is taken into account in calculating the tariffs. There are discussions going on and debates are on, but in the mechanism there is a place for return of investments to be given. But on the other hand, for large projects, it is through the tendering process, where the Ceylon Electricity Board will tender the power plants which are in the generation plan, where any investor can participate in the bid. So through the tendering process, we discover the price for these projects. So in that, the investor can factor in their returns while competing with the other parties.
Thank you. I think you had answered it very, very detailed. I should have started with a different comment. The discussions today have made me very happy because it looks Sri Lanka is moving positively on the renewable energy. That's a good sign because we heard from senior people in the industry, in the state sector. So I think we should be happy that we are moving on the right direction. So I have another question for Mr. Damit. Do you have any figures about how much percentage of the Sri Lankan population have access to electricity?
Actually, access to electricity is almost 100%. But there are a very limited number of people who have not yet taken the connection. So we generally measure it in the accessibility where the network has gone to all these parts of the country, unlike 15 years ago.
Thank you. Now I have a question for Engineer Uranga. With USA getting out of the Paris Agreement, is there an effect on Sri Lanka with regard to renewable energy development?
With the Paris Agreement recently, the president opted out, right? So I don't think so. We are going ahead with our emission targets. So we have our international commitments. So there is no impact, I think. So we're going ahead with our committed targets. We always report our progress.
Okay, so that's good news again. One more question to Engineer Ranga. Maybe I didn't follow. Have we found out, or are we also in the process of using, we have sea right around the country, the sea wave, using the sea wave to generate renewable energy?
Actually, those are, I think still not the mature technology for Sri Lanka. Actually, we have enough potential in other sources, right? So which we can solar and wind. We always talk about pilot scale. I think Sustainable Energy Authority can start something. The Sustainable Energy officers are here, so So first we will go with some pilot scale. One will see the viability of the project, and then we can accommodate in if it is viable only to the plans.
Because why I asked that question is because that's a natural thing that is given to us. We have right round sea of the country.
You should have
Small
some.
country with a huge sea frontage. Okay, that's fine. Now I have a question to Mr. Parakrama. Yeah. Engineer Parakrama, I want to verify what is the best mix that we should have on renewable energy. When you say, when I mix solar, then wind power, bio, all that. What is the best mix in the context of Sri Lankan context that we should have?
I think that mix could come when you consider the 4 A's that Namita talked about. But in Sri Lanka, I always continue to say we are so fortunate. We have so much of hydro, major hydro. So this given already. You see, we are already there. So then, of course, then we have to go on looking at other sources. Like, for instance, you also mentioned wave energy. But during the recent couple of years, I must say, it has emerged so much that solar and wind is a massive resource. And it's something that we can harness very easily, particularly solar. And also in that respect, you see, you must always go for what is called the low-hanging fruit. So, and here we are in a dire situation, want to be able to non-dependent on fossil fuel. So you must keep that as your primary target and go for the easiest one that do that. In that respect, although a certain amount of work can be done on the wave energy and all that, our efforts must be now focused on things that we can get done quickly and reach our comfort zone, as it were. Then I don't mind going for research on the other these and that. So that way, if you talk about the mix right now, I would say about major hydro with mini hydro, perhaps. I think maybe about 35% would be there, right? Then, of course, there will be wind, also might be about similar this thing. Then solar and I would like to see dendro coming in with a reasonable percentage, not a lot of it. You see, reasonable percentage, because it's a so great value, going way beyond just energy. The value of, energy plantation, usually, particularly things like glycidia, is only about 20-25% for the energy side of it. Much more is from various other aspects of social benefits and, agriculture, fertilizer, environment, all that sort of thing. Therefore, it must receive a much higher percentage, which actually, fortunately for us, certain barriers that were there have been removed now. Door is wide open for that one, of course, but it's not something like putting a 5 kilowatt system on your roof. You see, we have to work at a reasonable level, something like, say, 2-3 megawatts at least, so considerable amount of money. So how to generate that money is an issue, right? But if you do that one, the benefits are far greater than anything else, because you are talking about not just getting a certain amount of energy, a lot more. So mix in that respect would be that kind of thing. It will emerge, actually. Hydro is given, mini hydro is given, and also there are reasonable amount of mini hydro also that can come in if you iron out some of these environmental issues and all that. But definitely solar is there. Start with rooftop and certain amount of ground mounted, and definitely some floating solar, because that will take away a lot of the problems of access to land and all that sort of thing. Then, of course, certain amount of wind. Wind, unfortunately, is again not something you can do very, very small. You are talking about actually now it will be about 3 megawatt as the minimum kind of thing. It might be more. In fact, I have a fond idea of somebody coming up with smaller wind plants so that you can have wind plant on your roof also. You see, that's the kind of mixture that will emerge, I think.
Thank you very much. Now I have a question for Professor Janaka. Do you think that we should have 100% storage of renewable energy and also control center, whether it should be a central control center or broken it into pieces? Now this gentleman from Germany was talking about the municipalities, but we don't have a system like that. CEB has its sections or whatever. So, in your opinion, what is the best? Do we need to have 100% storage of renewable energy? And also, how do we control it? Holistically or in sections?
I mean, when you say 100% renewables, when it comes to the system side, it's more like whether we have right mixture of asynchronized generators plus synchronized generators, because the system will need some base generation to maintain the stability and certain security measures. Now that base can definitely, when you say the synchronized machines, that can be like dendro, that can be nuclear. They are synchronized machines, so they can be directly connected to the system and keep the kind of a balance in there. But then on top of that, we will need lots, all these asynchronous generators that are the solar, wind, as you were telling, maybe not the wave, but tidal. Tidal is a small wind turbine inside the water. All kind of things can come on top of that. Then we can run the system with 100% renewables, or I would say 100% decarbonized energy sources.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, just as a question, I don't know, any one of you all can answer. Is there an issue with rooftop solar systems as a country in Sri Lanka? Because there are a lot of people, as I think the data was given, there are a lot of solar roofs installed. Is there an issue on this, or it can be resolved, or there is no issue?
Because I have the microphone, let me answer first. I mean, obviously, there is no issue. It's just a matter of managing them. The management is the issue. Like, if you let them to come in without having proper standard in place, this is like, we started the private buses without having the regulations for running the private buses. And when the private buses become a nuisance, we put the regulation in place. So I think we should do it the correct way. And once it is done in correct way, nothing will happen. There won't be a big issue.
I think you answered the question very well. There are some questions that has come from the... But, yeah, Ananda, you want to add anything?
So, I think rooftop solar, I think we need to have this from utility point of view, Renewable Energy Control Center, early as possible, and we need to have the visibility as well as the controllability of rooftop solar as well, in order to have the stability and the reliability. Those things, from the point of view of utility, we have to make sure that there is no limitation of rooftop solar will keep on adding. It is there in the CCP power long-term plans also, but we have to have those visibility and controllability.
Just one question. Now, I know in India, if somebody is building up a big factory complex, they have to do a solar plant somewhere else. And that capacity, the capacity they required for the running of the factory, they have to make renewable energy in some other location and connect with the grid, and then they get the power connection, not otherwise. So is there a system like that in Sri Lanka?
I think so.
No, actually, the existing Electricity Act, actually there are two acts now, the 2009 Act and the 2024 Act, but 2024 Act, though enacted, is not fully operational. Under 2009 Act, you're talking about wheeling, that you generate in one place and you consume it in another place. So the wheeling is not allowed, because we have a single buy model where everyone should sell to the transmission license. The moment you sell it to the transmission license, it becomes a separate plant. It is not connected with the user. But with the new act, this wheeling is allowed with the markets. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there are some questions from our Zoom participants. There is somebody, Mr. Vasanta Dias, Vasanta, is asking, is the Adani wind power project cancelled? I don't know who is going to answer. We don't know. No what it was. Yeah. Then there is a question from one Mr. Ruan Bolongo. Is the present era most people have some knowledge about wind and solar energy? However, in this seminar, while nuclear, green hydrogen and biomass energy were mentioned, there was little explanation on how to harness these energy sources. What actions has the government taken to develop and utilize them? Anybody?
So sorry, I don't want to even talk about nuclear. There's no need, right? But when it comes to dendro power, it is already on ground. We have about 50 megawatts already installed and can be connected. Technologies are there, knowledge is there. Unfortunately, I don't want to go into detail. There's a 5-year, what do you call it, hiatus, where you are not allowed to do. Unfortunately, that problem is not. That is wide open for anyone to do it. Right now, what is required is certain amount of approval procedures there, which takes rather long time through the CA. But if you do that one, it's a good business. Good tariff is be paid. If you can find the money, it's a good business to be in. There are no issue at all, and there are no restrictions as such. It's just that these procedures are so cumbersome, unfortunately. But then they can be overcome. People have done that. CEB can be a little more helpful in allowing grid connections. You see, they are more helpful in allowing the grid connection. There are projects, I know there are 2-3 projects already, people are waiting to get the grid connection, they will do that. But it's something that is wide open for anybody to do it.
Architect Jayanta, may I ask a question from the live audience?
Just one more question from the, this is from one Mr. Teshan Lanka. This is I think to the CEB. What is your forecast on the rates offered by CEB to its customers for exported units from solar generation? Not a very clear question. What is your forecast on the rates offered by CEB to its customers for exported units from solar generation?
I mean, about the rooftop tariff, I think. No, I think it is under the discussions of management. I don't have any idea about what the prices at this moment. So it is under the discussion of the higher management.
Okay, right. Thank you. Now there was a question from the audience.
Let me
tell your name first and then.
Yes, let me introduce myself. I'll first introduce before the name. I am here as a father of a child who has been physically abused, tortured and raped. I am the father of the 80% renewable energy policy of the former president. I am the man that fought for 36 months to get this 70% by renewable energy out as a cabinet decision. My question is very simple. This was done in October 2021. Professor Janak has very clearly mentioned, he and I both know, and I'm sure everybody else in the professional field of electricity knows, though you as an architect and rest as civil engineers may not. If it's 10 years old, what is our grid still doing in 2025? Not having incorporated it, not even having generated a plan to incorporate the concept of a smart grid, after a cabinet decision and a directive in 2021, how come we still have two generation plans, 2021 to 42 and 2023 to 44, still comprising of LNG? And the second sub-question, particularly from the electricity board, who exactly designated LNG as a clean energy? What academic or engineering basis do you have to do that? When the cabinet decision very clearly directs you 70% by renewable energy by 2030, by 2050, 0% emissions. Thank you.
So actually, we'll go like this. Now we are in 2025.
Just one second.
Yeah.
You didn't mention your name.
I'm Dr. Arjuna Bharat.
Arjuna, thank you.
So we have plans prepared. We are going ahead with the plans. I think we had some funding issues and many problems with the implementations. I think hopefully we can solve this thing and go forward. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Any
one
other-
thing can I add now. Actually now the 70% renewable energy, Arjun was talking about 80%, but the 70% target is now in policy very clearly. So the CB is preparing the next plan, or I think the previous plan also has 70% renewable energy, but you are talking about LNG and other resources, other sources are also there. So one thing is that when you say 70%, it's just not a cap, but it's a flow. You can go beyond that. There's no limitation imposed on that. The one thing that I couldn't mention in my speech is that the renewables brings in another very needed and important aspects of pricing into the table. That is the price stability, which is as important as the price. Now the problem is the more fossil fuels you have in the system, the price volatility becomes very high. Now see what has happened in 2022, what is happening now. So dollar can fluctuate, the international market prices can fluctuate. So all those things will happen directly and instantaneously to our costs. So that will be a very volatile pricing mechanism when more and more fossil fuels are there. So the renewables are providing us with a good platform for stabilizing the prices. Not only low prices, but stabilizing the prices.
Coming add-on to that, also the
Thank you.
LNG is also a fossil fuel.
LNG is a fossil fuel. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other from the...
My name is Renewable Peruma. I just have a question. Thank you for offering me the chance to ask this question. Now, since 2016, so many solar panels came to Sri Lanka, and now last year it was boomed, and so many shipments came to Sri Lanka. Now, is there any policy in Sri Lanka to decommissioning the sites, or what is the dismantling process? And we know exactly the next shipment should be the batteries within 8 or 10 months. So is there any recycling process already discussed in no decommissioning report? I will be glad if you could give an answer.
No, actually this decommissioning aspect has not been discussed much to my knowledge, but the environmental ministry had some discussions early on these things, but not in full scale as I know. That's the only thing I see. The other thing is that when you look at rooftop, actually it exceeded all the assumptions and plans which we have done. So last year alone, it's about 600 megawatts that came in. If you look at the 2023 plan, which Ranga showed, we were looking at about 1,045 by 2030 or somewhere. But today we have 1,250, out of which 600 was last year. So that's the rate this has been developed. So we can't stop that. We have to embrace that with the solutions as Professor Ekanayaka suggested.
Savita, may I also add that what the number you just quoted is kind of like misdirectional, because this is peak production. Your 1,500 or 1,250 is at peak. It's not the gigawatt hours added to the grid. And I think consistently the public has never heard in terms of gigawatt hours annually added to the grid what the mix will be from renewables and solar. And why this fixation on only rooftop? Is that the only place we can do solar? We have about 750,000 acres of water bodies in Sri Lanka. 350,000 in all the major lagoons and the Mahaveli system alone. Forget the valleys. We can install more than 115,000 gigawatt hours of energy annually. The CEB hasn't even gone in that direction. All the mega solar the CEB is trying to do is in the middle of nowhere. I have to talk about this, Madavachi Kilinochi kind of business, right? The Mahaveli system is there. No, we have to go into some unheard of location in Sri Lanka, then huff and puff and saying there is no interconnectivity, line transmission and right-of-way problems, when Victoria has a 210 megawatt transformer and a water body that is gigantic. All you have to do is to put the floating solar and plug it to that hydroelectric transformer. What is this deception all about?
Okay, is there any other question?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is this question to Professor Ekanayaka. I know that you were sometime maybe a student, now the minister Peradini from Mr. Kumar from Peradini University. Then why we can't understand that why we are promoting, why not we are promoting electric cars? That is so we can always try to import fuel cars and the vehicles. That so when we are thinking about the zero carbon emission, but government also giving the more trying to bring vehicle petrol and fuel vehicles. And why we are not giving some concessionaries and or tax reductions to enhance the bringing electric cars, that we can why we can't more allowed to install hybrid charging station with power in the solar power and all the things. That these are the things that we have to introduce to the people. The earlier that research assistant said that clearly said that so we can do this one municipal wise and or other rural wise, that they can give a chance to bring an electric vehicle, and so we can come to in the 2050 zero emission carbon.
Sorry. I mean, there are two things here. Obviously, we have to promote electric vehicle, no question. But as I said before, we should also have the right legislations or standard in place. Now, coming back to the solar, I think what I don't have any connection with the ministry or anything. This was something I heard in the news, that they are trying to curtail the solar production in certain times of the day. Now, how are we going to do that? We don't have any access to rooftop solar. So how are we going to do that? We are talking about massive penetration of rooftop solar. Nobody can touch it, because as far as sun is there, it's there. The same thing will happen if we are going to bring EV without right legislation in place. So what we need is, the first thing is we need to get that visibility. For that, we need the smart metering infrastructure. Now the CEB engineers, a group of engineers, produce smart meters locally and install 400 meters in CEB system, and it was now abandoned by CEB. Okay. Now, this is their own baby, they have abandoned it. So this putting up smart meters on the system is, they have proved that it's a trivial thing. If they, not anybody else. Now, So that has to be first. Then we need to say that, anybody can understand this. At 12 noon, you have lots and lots of solar, so we need to do something. At same time, if we are going to bring more and more vehicles and everybody is charging them at home after coming from work, we will have a massive peak at the night. So for that, we need to use some price signals or incentive schemes to make sure that they charge during the off-peak hours. Now, that cannot be done if you don't have smart meters. So I think blankly bringing smart meters or bringing more and more solar is not going to solve this problem. One day somebody asked me, why can't we go for a smart grid? Now remember, the smart grid is a broader term for several technologies. The first thing is we should have a roadmap for that technology which can come in 2050, but little things can be started, and that roadmap is not there. So I think there are a lot more things to be done before we talk about increase in the penetration of 100% renewables, so lots and lots of EVs. And I mean, the report that was that I told, which was went into the bin, had lots of recommendations for these. Unfortunately, I don't want to bring that report out anyway. It's now in the bin, so it's something that has not taken up by the. And with that discouragement, I was kind of keeping away from the energy industry, so the power industry. I was partly involved with PUCSL at a brief time. Again, it was a bit of disappointment, not because of Damita, but there was a bit of a disappointment, so I get away with that also. But I think there are a lot more we need to plan and do.
Thank you so much. There is only one more question can be asked. The time has passed, so Nisanka, yes.
I am engineer Nisanka Vijayaratna. I read on a proposal to have a 600 megawatt pump storage plant in Mahavali system. To my knowledge, the biggest Mahavali hydro plant is 210 megawatts, that is Victoria. Then how do you plan to connect these 600 megawatts to the system?
I think I should answer it. Now, pump hydro, it's not Mahavali system, it's actually Maha Oya, it's in the Kagal, Aranayak area. There are 2 ponds, so it's a 6-hour operation. So it is like you have the pumping in the daytime to the upper pond with the excess solar wind. Then the night time you generate. So that is the way. And we have the 400 kV backbone line coming from northern, then New Habarana, via then Maha, then Kirindi Valley. That is the transmission line we plan. So we need to have the transmission backbone to evacuate that, as well as the pump hydro 600 megawatt. In recent plans, we have planned for 2034 to be connected. So, and the transmission infrastructure should come. I think now we have completed the feasibility study. Now detailed design is in progress. So, and hope to secure funds. This is also with target with the 70% renewable targets. So as in line with the general policy guidelines. So it is well planned. Now it is in progress.
Thank you so much. There was one, that's right. That's the last question, no more questions. Time has passed.
Yeah, sorry to have been last. Yeah, I am Engineer Harsha Kumar Suryarachi. Now we are talking about, actually I have to appreciate I think all these presenters. I know them very well, they are very good people. Now one thing is, now we are talking about 70% renewable. But why are we talking only about this CB consumption? Now, for example, as that gentleman very correctly said, vehicles consume a lot of foreign currencies. It's about 4 times or 5 times the CB usage. So why not we think of that line, and why not we made a proposal in 2015 for the government to, so we named it as 500% renewable because it's 4 times more than what CB is consuming. We can use now, Professor Ekanak pointed out that V2G systems are happening in the world, and we proposed this in 2015. Actually, CEB or some other authority should have taken it to consideration 10 years ago. Why not we start even now? The regulations and everything, we should not take them as a barrier. It's we who should put the regulations. Okay, thank you.
You want to answer? Okay, I'll answer so many questions. Now, this vehicle electrification, now we are in continuous dialogue with Transport Ministry, and this recent long-term generation expansion plan, we requested their forecast, how many electrical vehicles will be added. So they given us 3 scenarios. All 3 scenarios we considered in our demand forecast, we added that. So then we can see that whether there are progress also. With that, we have plans we prepare every 2 years. Then if there is a boost in electric vehicles, so we can cater that demand. There is no issue with the CP plans. We have already allocated their forecast into our plan. So we in line with that. So as in my presentation, you might remember that emission-wise, the major emissions is from transport sector, but we all talk about electricity, but we are in a very good phase. But so thanks for your question. So we have to think about transport sector in yeah.
Okay.
Yes, a very important aspect. Can I have mic? Yeah, sorry, because my question was kind of mistracked by your answer. Because what I am trying to say, tell is, why should we have to always depend on the CEB grid and everything? Because we get sun everywhere, and vehicles are independent. Presently, the vehicles are not dependent on CEB grid. So why can't we use that system? So we are not going to burden CEB. It's 4 times more than CEB's support or capacity. So why not we think of that way? We don't have to worry about it. So CEB can run their grid and the system separately for the things. But for the vehicles, why not we have a separate system?
I mean, anything is possible. The very old days, we had our own cows to get the milk. So that is possible. I mean, there's no question. I think what is happening is the world has become like nobody is now having cows to get milk, or you buy it from somebody. So the CEB, I mean, the energy is not only electricity, energy is all the vectors, as you very correctly said. There are so many vectors involved, and these vectors are now interdependent. It's not unlike those days. The heat is related to electricity and other things. So I think we need to have that big picture. So the CEB is only presenting their generation plan, not the government policy should look at all these different vectors.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please.
One comment on that. Actually, the CEB's plan is also considering this. If there is a policy to convert, bring in electricity vehicles and promote electric vehicles, that is linked to the CEB demand. And demand is taken into consideration in developing their plan. But you are talking something little different on the network side. But what I am saying is, whatever the current plan of development of EVs are taken into consideration in the CEB plan's demand forecast. But if you are going for entire thing, what you said, there can be separate ways of charging EV. But what I am saying is the current plan has taken into account whatever the forecast of electric vehicles from the Transport Ministry.
Trying to depend on CEB will be very dangerous.
We need to conclude the session now because we are running out of time. We are already run out of time. Thank you very much for the presenters and also the audience. I want to make just a statement made by Mahatma Gandhi. What he said is that there is enough in this world for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. Conclude that. Thank you.
Thank you too. And we have a few concluding tasks to be performed and some tokens of appreciation to be handed. And I think we're going to invite okay, so we'd like to invite President Jayanta to hand over these tokens of appreciation. So in no particular order, we start with the order of speakers, I guess. Damita Kumarasinghe to accept it. Right, the tokens are on the way. Followed by Engineer Eranga Jayaratnam. And then after that, Engineer Parakram Jayasinghe. Right, and in fact, Johannes over in Germany, he can't receive it here, but it will be handed to him in due course through the HWK agency. And oh yes, and we have, I missed that, and that's the bad thing, Professor Janaka Ekanayaka. Okay. And we'd like to invite, we'd like to invite the CEO to hand over to Architect Jayanta Pereira for having served as the moderator. Right. Right, there we are. Now our job's done. So as I said, Johannes Steingass in Köln in Germany will be receiving his token of appreciation in due course. So, something a little special to the professor. Right. Okay, so just to conclude the formality, even as we say thank you very much to having those in the panel for having contributed once again, we'd like to say thank you very much to the CEO and staff of the CCI and indeed the council for having energized this whole program, making it possible to be conducted in the manner it has, and addressing some very serious and urgent matters that are of concern not only to just the professionals, but as we have understood, the community of Sri Lanka. They really need to know and benefit from whatever it is. So there has been tireless commitment on the part of the staff of CCI, and we want to say thank you very much, and management and indeed the president as well. Yes, and we have a video coming up now, which is from our main sponsor. We would like to say thank you to HWK Vocational Training Improvement Project. And so with that,